How do you know what cardiac testing you need? So I get this question all the time on my social media. People are like, don't you need a calcium score? Don't you need a CT scan? Don't you need a stress test? When do you need an echogram? When do you need this? When do you need that? So there's an entire chapter in the back of my cholesterol book that just was released. It's the #1 in heart disease on Amazon in its first week of release. Highly recommend you grab the book, but I'm going to try to summarize this in a way to make it easy for everyone to understand. There's a lot of cardiac tests, and I've talked about multiple times here on all the different blood tests that you need. Mainly, we need an apolipoprotein B and a lipoprotein A to tell your cardiac risk from a very young age if you are going to have heart disease or not. The longer you are exposed to ApoB and LDL and lipoprotein A is an ApoB containing particle, but the longer you're exposed to apolipoprotein B, which I've done tons of videos about, the more likely you are to have heart disease. It is the cause of heart disease, and it is what gives you heart disease. Over a long enough time span, you will absolutely have heart disease if you have apolipoprotein B. So let's go with each test kind of in order. If you are having chest pain or shortness of breath on exertion, or maybe we'll go by symptoms. If you're having chest pain or shortness of breath on exertion, or just some unknown reason you're now getting short of breath that isn't explained by anything else, you're not a smoker, you don't have COPD, or let's say you are a smoker and have COPD, but this just feels different, or you had asthma and this kind of feels different, what have you, this is a time to get a stress test and an echocardiogram. The echogram will show us the valves. So it'll show us the heart pumping, the valves moving, the strength of the squeeze, how well it relaxes, whether your valves are like really tight or super open. All that stuff we could figure out from an echocardiogram. A stress test will show us how well blood is flowing to the various muscles in your heart and whether certain parts of your heart are getting or are not getting blood flow under stress versus under rest. It's a very good test. It's a dynamic, or what we call a functional test. Something like a CT scan, generally not that helpful, a CT angiogram, because it is not telling us blood flow under a dynamic or functional way. So a CT scan, you kind of just lay there, they slow your heart down with medications, they inject dye through your arteries. There's a little bit of risk of streaming. Those of you who work in a cath lab, you've seen what streaming looks like. There's a lot of artifact, motion artifact. There's misregistration artifact, which is kind of similar. So there's a little bit of issues with CT scanning. It is not a functional test. It's a static test. You just kind of lay there. You're not under stress. You're not putting your heart under stress, and you're just laying there. It is good in some instances, but generally not for this one. So a stress test would probably be the best test for this scenario. If the stress test is abnormal, you would generally need a cardiac catheterization, wherein we go into your heart via cardiac cath, look for plugged up arteries, and open them up with stents if needed. If the echocardiogram is abnormal, kind of depends on what we found. If it's a tight valve, there are certain things we do. If it's a leaky valve, there are certain things we do. Most of these are generally not serious until they are severe. If they are severe, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. You'd most likely be in a hospital if you have acute, severe, mitral valve regurg or aortic stenosis or whatever it might be. Now, some of these are like slowly progressing over decades, like aortic stenosis. So you would know over time what is happening. We'd be able to track it, and it would eventually become severe, and something would have to be done about it. There are other conditions, obviously, that we can find on echograms, which we won't go into. If you are passing out, let's say you are passing out, we would need an echocardiogram to look at your valves, like I just discussed, and we'd probably have to have you wear a heart monitor to monitor your heartbeat to see if it's going too fast or too slow, to try to figure out what is going on with your heart. Those are kind of the two things we would need. If you're having palpitations where sometimes you feel your heart racing and you're not really sure why or what's going on, that is another scenario where you could wear a heart monitor. You wear a heart monitor, it's like a little patch, you put it on your chest, you wear it for 2-3 days, maybe a week, sometimes a month, and we track your heart rhythm to see what your heart rhythm is doing at the time you are feeling some of these palpitations. Or if you don't want to tell us what day or time you're feeling these, some of them have like a button you can press or a little thing you hold over it and press the button. If you don't want to do that, you can just leave it alone. We'll track everything and let you know if we find anything. Those are kind of the main cardiac tests that we would do in a clinical setting if somebody came in with various kind of symptoms. So I hope that helps. You generally don't need these gobs and gobs of tests that all these other wellness practitioners recommend with the, there's just millions of them. I've talked about them in other videos, like a calcium score and a CT angiogram and a clearly scan and a oxidized LDL and a small LDL and a big LDL and all these fancy quote unquote tests that they want to do to you. The more tests they do, the more likely they are to find something wrong, and the better for them, because they can start selling you some nonsense like supplements and whatever. In statistics, if most of these tests are 95% normal, which means there's a 5% chance of something being abnormal. If you order 20 tests, there's a likelihood that one of them will be abnormal. And by 20 tests, we mean like if you order a CMP, which is a blood test, a complete metabolic panel, there's like 7 or 8 different things in there, maybe 10. Those are all 10 different things. Your sodium, your chloride, your AST, your ALT, alk phos, whatever. Those are 10 different things. If you add in a thyroid and a testosterone and a lipid panel, now you have way over 20 things. There's a high likelihood that one of those things is going to be abnormal or incorrect. And once they find something, like they say, oh, your ALT is a little high, or your TSH is a little this or a little that, you need to take our hormone support supplements and all this stuff. So every time you order 20 tests, one of them, there's a high chance that likely one of them is going to be abnormal. And if one of them is abnormal, they're going to try to sell you a bunch of nonsense, telling you need this and you need that and all this kind of nonsense, which you absolutely do not need. So I highly recommend that you do not follow those people. These are generally the most common outpatient tests that we do in cardiology. The less someone knows and the less experience they have, the more likely they are to order a whopping amount of tests in the hopes that something will come back. If you have an experienced clinician, they can usually just talk to you and be like, yeah, you've got POTS syndrome. Here's what we got to do. You don't need all these fancy testing to figure that out. So I hope this helps. This is kind of stuff I talk about on this channel. Subscribe and send it to people you know.